There is one unique characteristic about this system that's very important in the beginning of this because we have essentially two waves. You can really see this connection to the subtropics. We call this a pineapple express. It's a nickname for a type of atmospheric river. And then the next one's going to be much colder. So we are going to have more snow thrown into this, but this is just a lot of moving parts. So you got to hang with me. We're going to take you through everything from the top all the way into the very specific weekend forecast for Tahoe and some ski areas. So this is what we knew roughly would happen. Many years with a La Nina pattern, it's drier in Southern California and the desert Southwest, wetter for the Pacific Northwest and just about the edge of far Northern California. And this has played out very well. In fact, this is what we're seeing for observed precipitation. Red is below normal. Deep red is far below normal. And we're dealing with record dry conditions for Southern California and San Diego. Even though they got a decent storm, they've only had one this entire season. For us, we've had moments here or there, but it's been dry for most of January. And as we end January on this date, we're going to add a lot of rain into the bucket. Now, these are going to be updated around 5 to 6 p.m. later on today. But this is as of earlier this morning, 10 o'clock this morning. You could see barely anything for Southern California, decent for Central and Northern California. For far Northern California, the only two places that are still above average. But you have to go back to how much we had last year, which was pretty solid. And the reservoirs statewide, if you average everything out for federal, state, as well as local reservoirs that are run by utility companies, in some cases, we're at 116%. So there's plenty of water in the system. Yes, they're down from spring, but that happens every single year because of evaporation, using water for power as well as water for agriculture, and also to keep the rivers flowing at healthy levels. Otherwise, they dry up and everything dies, and nobody wants that. So here's where we are at the moment. We are in day one of a weather impact alert. Now, if you're not familiar with what this is, here at ABC 10, what we do is we highlight the really extraordinary weather days where there's going to be some impacts. Some days it might be due to wind. Some days it might be due to heat. This is for winter weather conditions, for rain, for snow, and for wind, and everything that comes along with it. So today is going to be your classic winter storm with rain and snow. For the Sierra, we're looking at rain showing up in part of the forecast. Now, sure, the lower foothills, 2,000 feet up to 5,000 feet. Very often, those places will, even in the winter, most usually have rain rather than snow. You usually start to see snow above 5,000 feet and up. This is 8,000 feet and up. That's the snow line. So that's going to be somewhat unusual as we try and navigate the many days ahead. And then, like I mentioned later on, with phase 2 of this, a whole brand new cycle, Monday through Wednesday, we're going to have much colder conditions, and that snow level is going to drop much more lower in the Sierra foothills. So we have two distinct timelines here. Weather impact alert timeline for the first cycle is going to be today through Sunday. This is a lot of heavy valley rain, 2 to 3 inches of valley rain. High Sierra snow mostly showing up Saturday and Saturday night. And then we're also going to have gusty winds on Saturday. That's going to be enough for power outages with trees coming down. So watch for that in the Sierra and the edges of the valley, mostly on the east side. Now for phase 2 here, we're going to be looking at Monday through Wednesday. It's a brand new cycle, atmospheric river, but this one does not have as much warm air with this. So this one's going to be valley rain, Sierra snow, and we're also looking at long periods of chain control. So like I mentioned, the first one here does have that connection to the subtropics, and it's going to bring in some warmer air on Saturday. So classic Pineapple Express. It's a great nickname because it tells you the orientation of the air that's coming in. These atmospheric rivers are very important, by the way. In any typical year, we get between 40 and 60% of all the water we're going to get in a year are from cycles just like we're getting for the next 3 days, as well as on Monday through Wednesday. But the nature of this is going to change a little bit. That Monday system, while it still initially has that connection, it's pulling in more cold air from the north right there. So we've got the moisture, and then we've got the cold air getting wrapped in, and that's where we're going to see the snow levels drop and really become more of a snowstorm. This one definitely has snow components. For the first part of this, we're looking at least a foot of snow initially. But as it's looking right now, the rain and snow is moving in at the moment. You can see there's plenty more into the pipeline as it keeps getting pulled in. High pressure out of here. So that means we are going to completely replace everything with colder air and a lot of very wet moisture. Now, one thing that really tells the uniqueness of how sort of this extreme pattern changes is just taking a look at Hawaii. They're getting nailed with the very same plume that's going to affect us in the days ahead. It's all connected. They've got a massive area with flash flood warning. And then for higher elevations, they're looking at 1 to 2 feet of snow for Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea, the two big volcanoes there on the Big Island. So extreme weather connects all the way down to Hawaii, and we're getting the very front edges of it here. As far as the wind component, I just think that this is going to get lost in a lot of this because day one, what we're getting for your Friday is valley rain, Sierra snow, on par with what we typically see, half an inch to an inch of valley rain, about a foot of Sierra snow. But then tomorrow morning, it really ramps up. Heavier rain, heavy snow in the beginning. Then we're going to see the winds show up late in the day, and this is after all day rain. So I am expecting limbs and even trees possibly at risk of coming over for the windiest spots, and that almost always means the possibility of power outages. And then as we navigate all the way into Monday, we're still dealing with wind. As far as the timeline for your high-res futurecast here, we're already in the middle of the rain and snow. It'll be on and off all day long. Early tomorrow morning, it continues. And then the moment of change is going to be right around noon to maybe 2 p.m. We're really going to watch this area shrink and go to almost all rain. Now, above 8,000 feet, we're still looking at snow, but below that, it's going to be rain. And it's also going to be rain on snow. Remember, we're getting a foot of snow. You throw some rain on top of that. There is some melting effect. And all this water's got to go somewhere. So all the creeks and streams up high, as well as the big ones down low, they're just funneling all this water somewhere. And watch for rapid rises in creeks and streams, the ones that usually are flood prone, those ones especially. But then also big waterways. Sacramento River is going to come up from about 8-9 feet to about 24 feet by the end of this cycle. Same thing with the Cosumnes River. It's going to be coming up to what we call monitor stage. Not the Sac River, but some of the other ones. So a lot of water coming into the system all at once. Just to highlight this rising snow level situation, that's what we're going to be dealing with during the day and certainly Saturday evening. And then you just have to remember, this is a big deal. You know, the Friday to Saturday storm, this is a classic winter storm. We can handle this. I would just say driving is probably the biggest issue, both in the Sierra for chain controls and just around town. You know, on any given day in Sacramento, driving is not good. I think we all know that. You throw in half an inch to an inch of rain, it's going to be even worse. So watch out for that. And then as we stretch this out into the beginning of the brand new cycle on Monday through Tuesday and Wednesday, folks, this is big time. This is major. This is a lot of water coming into the system, either via rain or snow. And we're starting to push upwards of 10 inches plus of liquid. That's for the foothills. That's why they're going to have to start releasing water out of the dams and reservoirs through their spillway system, because they just can't absorb all of that. And they need to make room for additional storms further on in the season. So just expect a lot of water. This is hydrology happening in real life. And that's going to raise places like the Cosumnes River at the Michigan Bar. This is right by Rancho Murrieta. It's going to go from about 3 feet to about 8 feet. This is monitor stage. Then we start to hit the flood stage. That's when places like Wilton could be at risk for some low-level flooding. So we're not there, but that elevates the water in the river system. So if we get hit with another round of atmospheric river-type storms, then we are really in danger of some of those more serious flooding impacts. Sacramento River, like I mentioned, about 8 feet up to 24 feet. It'll be muddy, it'll be brown, you'll be watching a lot of debris and even trees just floating down the river. And it's really going to get very close to the bottom there of the Tower Bridge. So we still have plenty more room to go, but this is a significant rise. So to sum it all up, what you really need to know is there's lots of details, there's lots of moving parts, but today through Wednesday, expect at least valley rain, mostly Sierra snow, except for that one rain day on Saturday. Driving is almost always the #1 issue, but then later on, it's flood-prone areas, Arcade Creek, Deer Creek, you could name a bunch of them. The places that typically flood when it rains for several days in a row are very much at risk. And then going past this, well, what does our world look like once we get past these two cycles? Well, it's going to be a little bit dry going into next weekend, which is fine. And then after that, it looks like we're going to remain cold and we're going to remain wet. So going into the middle of February now, we still retain this wet pattern. So for our local forecast, focusing on the valley locations in and around Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, we're looking at solid on and off rain today all the way through Wednesday. But like I mentioned, a bit of a break, and these are very important. If you don't get a break, you very quickly get into a flooding situation. Next weekend at this point looks okay, but past that, likely going to add in more storms to the cycle. We're now below average to the date as far as snowpack. This number here needs to be at 100% to consider a full snowpack by April 1. They're doing a snow survey today. They started at 11. They usually release results right around noon. We're going to be watching that very closely. And then for statewide, we're about 2/3 of where we should be for snowpack. But like I mentioned, this is the big number. I don't know where we're going to end up after all this, but it's going to be in much better shape. taking a look at some of the travel that some of you may be doing to get after all this fresh snow, we are expecting chain controls on and off all weekend. There may be a moment with the rain where they drop it for a bit because there's not snow on the road or it melts all the way through. So that may happen, but you're really just trying to catch a falling knife with that one. Just expect chain controls on Friday, part of Saturday, and then that's going to be coming back at some point on Sunday. The first part of this looks pretty solid, at least a foot of snow, if not more. Some of the planned lifts that should be open, they're all looking pretty good. They've got a lot of terrain open. They've been able to preserve a lot of the snow because it's been cold and make snow as well, just to get sort of the main thoroughfares open so you can move around the mountains. And that's going to be the plan. Usually at some point they shut off snowmaking and then it's just waiting for natural snow like we're going to have here. Now the issue is this is the plan, but you throw in really strong winds on Saturday. And typically when you start seeing wind gusts above 40 miles per hour, that's when you're going to be seeing some issues. So over the next 7 days in Tahoe, you can expect a rain-snow mix. Watch out for the rain on Saturday. That's going to be really high snow levels as well as windy. The snow does start to come back to around 7,000 feet, but this is for Tahoe, which is at 6,200 feet. So rain at lake level, snow for the mountains, most base areas and up. And then we're watching much colder air come in for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and even some lingering snow sticking around on Thursday. I think that pretty much covers it all for California. Folks, this is going to be a very active period down low and up high, and we will update you all right here on ABC 10 Plus.